Now, social media is important, and it's definitely an important part of the marketing mix, but I wouldn't say it's lead generative. Deal with the elephant in the room first, which is one of the reasons that portal costs make up such a high proportion of so-called marketing spend is because the portals are putting their costs up significantly on an annual basis, right? So let's just deal with that first. Hang on. Do you think it might be the other way around? Do you think that investing in marketing, and I know it can sound a little bit contrived, but investing in marketing then provides the business that creates the revenue, that creates the profit?
The average person can recall 3 agents off the top of their mind from the research we've just done. 3. They can just think of 3. If you're not in the top 3 from all your brand awareness work, you won't be considered.
Almost 2/3 of estate agent and letting agents' PR and marketing budget is spent on the portals. To me, that sounds an awful lot of money. Today, I'm joined by some esteemed members of the estate and letting agency industry as part of The Voice of the Agent, a survey that surveyed over 800 estate agents and also 2,000 homeowners. Simon, something tells me that you're pretty good on marketing. Something tells me that.
I'd hope so. He knows.
Okay. Is 38% enough of an estate agent's marketing for marketing, which fundamentally is to get more listings?
So one question we asked, it's a really good question, is how much do you spend outside portals on other marketing? Which averages about 10.4%. And it's pretty consistent regardless of the size of agency and also whether they're self-employed or not. The only big spender which goes off the charts is if you're online. You have no physical presence and you're purely online. That's really high. The reason why I think people are investing so much in portals is marketing starts with the market, the voice of the consumer. And it's all the research I have, there's a whole section on this report about how people perceive portals, is how highly rated portals are by the consumer, by the homeowner. People actually, whatever we think of them as an industry, love the portals because they aggregate all that content. It's very easy to access. And in terms of recommendation, in terms of access, in terms of usage, in terms of its position relative to the leading estate agents in the country is much stronger. That said, does that leave enough for the other marketing they need to do? Well, as I say, they're spending about 10.4% on other marketing activity, which would be in line with most industries. The confusion is, why aren't portals part of the marketing budget? And how are we really going to calculate these two out in terms of what are you really spending in marketing?
Because you've got two things. You've got one is to get the house sold, which I think is where the portals come in. And then you've got your other marketing and PR, which will come to you in a second, Russell, is trying to generate more business in.
And there's lots of work that Rightmove's done on that front in terms of actually how just being on the portals really helps your brand awareness. So actually, it's not just about sales activation of selling a house. It's actually about raising your brand with potential customers because, you know, they've got, according to the data I've got from SimilarWeb, they have Rightmove, the leading player, has 98 million unique visitors a month. Hold on. There's only 63 million people in the country and there's only 100,000 housing transactions. What is that stat actually mean? So again, in this report, we've actually taken away all the web stats. We've actually put real figures about real numbers of people who are accessing the portals. But what I would say, and this comes from the report, is the agents who are growing, who grew last year and going to grow this year, literally do more marketing.
Excluding the portals.
Excluding the portals.
Because that sells the house.
We've had to limit that out because in some ways that's such a complex proposition in its own right.
At first I thought it was a bit of nonsense. I thought it was over-egged. And then again, one of the great things about this is because you're hitting both the agents and you're hitting the consumer. And at that later stage there, again, when we were thinking about what was the most important to the consumers, absolutely top, listing their property on more than one online portal. And then you think back and think the logic of that, which is no surprise, isn't it? These are the guys who are doing the B2C advertising at a massive level, aren't they? So of course they're going to reaffirm that. So I don't think there's absolutely any doubt to that.
Should we deal with the elephant in the room first, which is one of the reasons that portal costs make up such a high proportion of so-called marketing spend is because the portals are putting their costs up significantly on an annual basis, right? So let's just deal with that first. I don't think the portals are marketing.
I agree.
I think they're a utility. And I think that's the problem with the industry. When you look at your marketing budget, I know your 10% of revenue excludes portals, I get that. But I think a lot of agents, corporates and independents look upon marketing as including portals. So therefore that ticks a big box. They think they're marketing. I notice actually apart from portals, the biggest thing that agents do in terms of effort in order to create business, whatever that looks like. I mean, that could be, is that buyers? Is that sellers? Whatever. Is social media. Now, social media is important, and it's definitely an important part of the marketing mix, but I wouldn't say it's lead generative. I think it's the fluff that goes with your marketing.
Listing.
So I think the problem with the industry is we think marketing is portals and social media. But as Simon hopefully will acknowledge and admit, there's a whole load of other stuff in terms of channels that you have to employ properly and with an element of expertise and sophistication in order to create brand. So you must demonstrate that you have a brand that therefore can be trusted, so therefore you are trusted. But also then the lead generative stuff around whether it's Google Ads, paid social and so on. I don't think the estate agency industry understands the minutiae underneath portals and underneath social media. That's the problem.
Absolutely. And yeah, I completely agree. The reason why we took portals out of it is actually it's a hygiene factor. You need to be on the portals. Everyone's on the portals.
It's kind of like a tax, isn't it? Yeah. You've got to pay it.
What your discretionary marketing is giving you a competitive advantage to talk about your personal brand. Yes, there is this hybrid area between portals and your own marketing where they talk about brand. But what I saw with those growth agents is they're consistently doing more marketing overall across more channels. And with each channel of marketing, they're doing more of it.
Yeah.
So they're literally doing much
can we just touch on
more
the PR,
marketing.
the PR thing specifically, because, hello, I'm here, have you met me?
And just before you say that it's the highest return on investment marketing activity you can do.
Can you say that again, Simon? Sorry.
It's the highest return on investment marketing activity that you can do.
So PR is the highest return on investment marketing activity you can do. Wow. Who knew? But only one...
I'll take the check later.
Okay. But only 1 in 5 agents employ any form of public relations. And it's actually, in your list within the survey here, it's actually, I think, the 7th most used marketing channel, even though it's got the best ROI. We've mentioned a couple of times that word trust, right? If you want to build trust as a brand so that people think you have credibility, so they want to transact with you, you have to do, and yes, social media plays a part, but you have to employ an element of public relations. Why? Because marketing is not just about, as we've said, putting a thing on social media saying, we've just listed a 3-bed house in Scunthorpe and it's 58 grand or whatever it is. It's much more than that in terms of showing your expertise, your thought leadership, your credibility, which then builds trust. It's all about brand, whether it's the brand's brand or whether it's personal brand. I think agency PR is something that is generally employed by big businesses that have huge budgets. It really isn't, and it really shouldn't just be that. It has to be part of your marketing mix. Otherwise, and without being too critical, those agents watching this that think the best form of marketing is putting a pie chart in their window that says that they are agent A with a market share of 19% and agent B's got 15%. I mean, honestly, wake up.
It's worse than that. It's sometimes 2.3% versus 2%.
Yeah. But that's marketing, so-called, of the 70s. And the consumer's not buying it. They don't care if you've got a slightly bigger market share than agent B or C. What they care about is, are you an expert? Do I trust you?
I mean, PR's marketing and marketing's PR. I know that it's almost like a Venn diagram and it's crossed over. What exactly do we need to talk about?
PR is part of marketing. Let's just settle that once and for all. There isn't a division here. PR is part of the marketing universe.
But you need to do 2 things, don't you? So you need to build credibility and trust around your brand, but you also then need to do the lead generative.
What do you actually have to do? What do people have to
Chris, I've got so there's 2 things. There's the short-term lead generation, longer-term brand awareness. Estate agents have such a short-term mind. And to give you an example, on-market prospecting. So agents are chasing the next valuation. Now, 5 years ago, on-market touting prospecting was quite unique. Now, I'm hearing stories of vendors who have 10 letters from different agents using, I'm part of the problem, suppliers like us, and there's many out there, with the same templates landing on the same day. It's having that adverse effect now that it doesn't work as much anymore. If you, in your town, only 4% of your town transact in a year. So if you're, and out of that 4%, only 15% of that switch agents. The rest of the properties coming to the market are people that have not previously been on the market for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So your marketing you need to look more long-term in your marketing. It has to reflect that. And agents need to invest more on long-term brand awareness. But they don't want to because it isn't that instant gratification.
You need to give to get. Now, what I mean by that is, rather than your social media and your attempts at PR being calls to action, as in, we're good, we sold loads of houses last week, we're the biggest, you need to spend a much longer period of time proving that you are not just trustworthy, but an expert in your area. So you know the market, you know where the most expensive houses are, you know where the schools are. You're giving advice and information through PR and social media so that you're seen as someone that isn't just there to grab business every 30 seconds, but you're providing information,
you're
guidance,
giving, not
expertise. And what that then builds is, over a period of time, trust. It's nurture.
Because if you talk about stuff that people are interested in, they'll get to know you, like you, and trust you. Yeah. What else? Is it talking about the property market, the locality?
Yeah, I know Elaine feels strongly about this. There's 3 types of marketing. There's the long-term brand awareness. You've got to get people to know who you are, why you're different from everyone out there in a very homogenized and commoditized industry where they're all the same. There's then the sales activation, the leader, getting instructions in there, getting people to instruct you over your competitors. And that is the 4-5% of the market at that point that's making a decision. And the third point, where obviously Elaine comes in and other roles, is once you have the property, what do you do with it? Because you've got to get people to, it's levels of brand awareness. The most number of people need to have heard about your brand. And that's PR, it's social media in the right way, it's going to events, it's doing lots of free content, give before you take, as you say. Then it's about, right, you're in the market, and you need to be in the top of their mind. The average person can recall 3 agents off the top of their mind. From the research we've just done, 3. They can just think of 3. If you're not in the top 3 from all your brand awareness work, you won't be considered. That's when you can activate them, lead generate from them. And then finally, once you have a house, how the hell do you market it to its best potential?
And this is where your home staging comes in, and also getting vendors and estate agents to tell the story around that.
And that's exactly right, Chris. That's exactly right. And I think that what we see a lot of is that agents concentrate on getting the listings. They might do a little bit of brand awareness. But you see, so let's take a different industry. Take Coca-Cola, for example. Of course, they do all their brand awareness. You go to Coca-Cola because it is a particular brand. But they also do a huge amount of marketing of the product. And estate agents are not marketing in general the product. They are marketing themselves. They're getting the lead generation, they're getting the listing, they're in some cases doing the brand awareness, but the product seems almost as sort of an accident.
What, just whack it on Rightmove?
Yeah, just whack it on Rightmove.
Okay.
Yeah, keep your fingers
final
crossed.
thoughts from you, Russell?
Yeah, just a quick point about budgets. So Simon points out that, understandably there's a percentage of revenue that people spend on marketing, and it's pretty regularised across industries. So we're spending, as an industry, as a property sector, about 10% of revenue on marketing. However, I think we think about that the wrong way round. I've had a few potential clients say to me, for instance, when we're profitable, we will invest in marketing. And you say, whoa, hang on. Do you think it might be the other way round? Do you think that investing in marketing, and I know it can sound a little bit contrived, but investing in marketing then provides the business that creates the revenue, that creates the profit? You've got to do the marketing first, because if you wait to do the marketing, you won't be in a position to do it anyway.
It's like those agents that drop marketing when the market drops.
Let's turn everything off. And it drives me nuts. So it's an investment in your future revenue and profitability. You've got to bite the bullet and do it first. So any chief financial officer that says, well, we'll do marketing at the end of the year almost. No, we have to do it in January to create the business later on.
We teach this on our course, but the 10%, which is a good guideline for people who aren't spending enough at all. But that is 10% of your revenue. If your revenue goes down, you invest less in marketing. That's entirely the wrong thing to do. And all the data bears that out. You should start with zero-based. Well, how much money do you want to make, and how much marketing do you need to do to get there?
Reverse
zero-based and go from the bottom up, from the top down. 100%. The 10% is just, there are people out there spending literally nothing, and they're wondering why their businesses are failing.
Yeah, ignore your CFO, that's what I say.
Yeah. Final thought. Of the agents that grew last year, 64% of them vastly increased their marketing budget. And on that, we'll leave it at that.